I have to confess, my eating habits before quitting sugar were all over the place. All my meals were extremely sugary. I could eat cottage cheese with sugar and chocolate chips as a meal, biscuits with milk and sugar, entire bags of cookies, and loads of halva, which is a sweet made from half sesame paste and half sugar. I was also addicted to chocolate about 5 years ago, and I could easily eat 3 big chocolate bars a day. So this isn't a story about someone who just ate a little sugar. It was just the opposite. I didn't grow up healthy. We ate a lot of white flour and sugar. My parents are overweight, and I was overweight for a while as a child. We had chocolate, always high on the shelf, cookies, always available, cakes for breakfast on Saturdays, which is the day off here in Israel. And as a child, every trip to the supermarket meant buying snacks. And I had this general mindset that if something didn't taste good, you just added sugar, bread, cheese, whatever. And I'm telling you all of this so you know you can quit sugar too. I wasn't some miracle food monk or anything. If you are curious, you can even check out a video I did about this chocolate addiction I used to have. Now, today I don't eat sugar at all. Now I'll just show you the blood test. My glucose, which is basically my blood sugar, is 74, which is really good. My hemoglobin A1C, which is average blood sugar over the past 3 months, is 4.5, also excellent. You can literally see it for yourself when I refresh the page. If anyone thinks I used AI or I don't know, Photoshop or something. So I didn't really need a blood test to know how quitting sugar was affecting my health. I just felt it. Since quitting, the highs and lows I used to experience throughout the day has been reduced. My energy is much more stable, and even my digestion is improved. I don't have to go to the toilet as often. There's a link, by the way, in the description to a research about sugar and digestive health, if you're curious, because um, people don't know the interconnection between them. Now, most of the time, I don't even get all the sugar cravings I used to. Years ago, I started eating a lot less than I was used to, and that already made a big difference, especially for my digestion. I honestly still have issues sometimes, but back then I thought that was the best I could do. I believe that eating less was the maximum else I could achieve, but now I know that things could get even better. The first thing that opened my eyes was a documentary called That Sugar Film. Maybe you've seen it in school. If you are in an English-speaking country, it shows how sugar hides in foods that seem healthy, like yogurt, what it does to your body, including the story of a 17-year-old who had all his teeth removed, and how it causes energy highs and crashes that can lead to all kinds of diseases. But when I first watched it, I didn't really believe that sugar was why I sometimes wake up feeling so drained, or that cutting it out could actually improve my overall health. It just seemed like some healthy bullshit, but I did start checking ingredient list out of curiosity and noticing how much sugar was in the foods I ate. I even cut back for a few days, but before long, I slipped right back into my old bad habits. Surprisingly, what really made the shift for me was learning where sugar comes from. Sugar comes from sugarcane, and growing sugarcane requires workers on plantations, And today, many of these workers still endure conditions that are disturbingly similar to slavery. Let me share one disturbing example from the sugar industry from a CNV International report. A working day in the sugarcane fields. Sugarcane cutter Marcelo from El Salvador starts his working day as early as 5 a.m. He lives on until 7 p.m. These long working days are dire necessities, as he has no permanent employment contract, but is paid per ton of sugarcane cut. He cuts up to 16,000 kilos of sugarcane a day. He is paid $2.5 for every 1,000 kilos of sugarcane cut, which means $40 a day. Fed sugarcane has to be processed quickly in the sugar factory. If it takes too long to be collected, then it is worthless. Then Marcelo gets paid less or nothing at all. Having no employment contract also means he has no right to Social Security. In case of an accident or illness, he has no access to healthcare. He can only go to local health posts for the poorest of the poor. He also receives hardly any safety clothing to protect him from injuries or the scorching sun. Conditions are dire. The hard work under the merciless sun without decent breaks or adequate drinking water is a war of attrition. Many sugarcane harvesters in Marcelo's area have kidney problems that sooner or later become fatal to them. It is the bitter reality in this sector. If that doesn't shock you and you want to see for yourself, you can Google sugar slavery today and check credible sources like Democracy Now!, the Zamsen Reuters Foundation, or Fairtrade, or simply look for other resources online. I must mention in that regard that you might hear some people say, well, you can buy Fairtrade sugar. And for those of you who don't know, Fairtrade is basically a certification that claims to make sure that farmers and workers in developing countries receive fair wages and better working conditions. At least that's what their marketing says, but I don't really believe it. I watched several documentaries and it really didn't seem to me that fair trade is possible or that anyone could even tell the difference between products made under fair trade and those that aren't. And when you look deeper into how these certifications, you start seeing that they are also businesses. They give certifications, companies then charge money for those products, and like many other business models, their main goal is just profit. That made me question how much they actually care about workers. There are some actually great TED Talks that cover this topic as well. I recommend checking them out. Now, learning all of this gave me a huge amount of motivation. For months, I devoured content on sugar and the food industry, documentaries, podcasts, articles, almost all day, every day. And at some point, after hearing repeatedly how bad something was, I would eventually quit it. For example, canola oil. When I first learned how it's produced, it made me feel disgusted, but I still kept eating it out of habit. But after hearing about it a few more times in different contexts, I eventually stopped eating it altogether. And that actually helps a lot because seed oils are found in many sugary foods. And then I started reading and watching stories from people who had quit sugar, and that helped me realize that maybe it really was possible, and it kept making me consider it again and again until I finally decided to try it myself. So, to summarize, at this stage, your main task is very simple. Just start consuming content about sugar. You can watch documentaries, listen to podcasts, read articles about sugar and processed food. And if you don't have much time, you can even listen with headphones while doing other things. That's what I often did. A good place to start is with documentaries such as That Sugar Film, Super Size Me, Fed Up, and Food That Inc. And if you are also motivated by moral reasons, you can Google online for topics like sugar slavery today, and from there you can simply ask ChatGPT for more resources to help you quit sugar, or just look it up online. Reading ingredient list. Okay, so this one is really important. If you really want to quit sugar, you need to be aware of where it is and how much is in your food. If someone else cooks for you, start asking them what ingredients they use when they cook or bake for you. You also need to understand how ingredient lists work. Ingredients are listed by quantity. That means the first ingredient on the list is the one that is present in the largest amount. For example, let's look at a tomato sauce, okay? If the first ingredient listed is water, that means most of the product is water. The second ingredient might be tomato paste, which is more than the ingredients that follow, but less than the water. So in general, ingredients are listed in increasing amounts. The second ingredient is more than the third, and the third is more than the fourth, and so on and so forth. When you start reading this list, you'll notice many ingredients with names you don't recognize. Things like citric acid, calcium chloride, and many others. Whenever you see something you don't understand, look it up, okay? You should know what you are putting into your body. Sometimes it would be surprisingly shocking, okay? I once saw iron sulfide in a can of olives, okay? It just used to make the olives look darker and more appealing for buyers. And after learning that, I didn't want to eat this kind of olives anymore. You'll also notice how many supermarket products contain added sugar, even foods that seem healthy, and the reason is simple: sugar makes food taste better, people buy more, and it's cheap, partly because it comes from. The third thing you need to do is to start paying attention to how sugar affects your body, okay, especially your energy. Notice how you feel after eating sugary foods. For me, the pattern looked something like this: a quick burst of energy, a crash, an urge to eat sugar again. A few times I even realized I had eaten sugar without knowing it, just from that sudden energy surge I had come to recognize. So you must start to pay attention. And how you pay attention? Remember step 2 of reading ingredients. You know where sugar is, and you start asking yourself, what happens inside my body? What happens to my energy after I eat these sugary foods? Step 4, which is gradual start. Now, to be honest, when I finally decided to quit sugar, I didn't do it gradually. I just stopped. At the beginning, I still ate some white flour products, to be honest, but aside from that, I stopped eating sugar completely. And it was very hard at first. I had extremely strong cravings. Sometimes I felt weak, and at times I was even wondering if eating sugar was just impossible and a healthy myth. So I made a deal with myself. I told myself I'll try this just for 1 month, and And if after 1 month I didn't feel any better, I would simply start eating sugar again. But guess what happened? When that month ended, my cravings were much weaker, and I actually started feeling much better. So I decided to keep going. Now, even though it seemed sudden, there was a gradual build up to it. For example, about 5 years earlier, I had already quit chocolate bars, which I used to be very addicted to. And about 8 years ago, I quit cola and some other sugary drinks that followed. And there were some other stuff that I slowly removed from my diet. And I want it to happen to you too. So listen closely to this method that helped me do this. The method that worked for me was quitting specific foods completely, but one at a time. I told myself I am giving this specific food for good. Strangely, that actually made it easier because it became part of my identity. Okay? A vegan, which is an identity, people say, I am vegan, you are vegan, they are vegan. A vegan doesn't stand in front of meat and debate whether to eat it. Someone religious who is fasting doesn't argue with themselves about food. And in the same way, when you say, I don't eat this specific food, I don't eat waffles, I don't eat candies, I don't eat cola, it becomes much easier to stick to it. And I can say this from my personal experience because I'm vegan and I also come from a religious household, so I'm familiar with this type of mindset. When you say to yourself and to others, it becomes part of your identity, and sticking to it becomes much easier. Now, if quitting something for life sounds too big, start with something small and easy. For example, quit something you don't particularly like, decide you never eat a certain food at home, or maybe you don't eat it on, I don't know, on Sundays, okay? These small rules create a big ripple effect, okay? I once quit waffles. I didn't love them, but they were around, so I ate them. When I stopped eating them, I found alternatives. And once waffles were gone, it became easier to remove other foods too. So in this step, your task is very simple. You choose one sugary food or drink to quit. You treat it like I did. You give it up completely, even in social situations. You just say, sorry, I don't eat that. At first, cravings will be strong, but over time they fade. Small things may take a week, bigger addictions, couple of months, at least from my personal experience. And once you succeed, you ask, what's the next thing I can quit? That's how the ripple effect grows and this cycle feeds himself. After some time, maybe months, maybe years, you look back and realize that there are many things you simply don't eat anymore. And honestly, it feels incredible. Okay? If you feel bad physically, your life is bad. No matter what you have or don't have. And if you feel good, your life is just good. Okay? No matter what you have in your bank, no matter how many friends, no matter anything. Thank you very much for watching. All of this came from my personal experience. I'm not a doctor, and this is not a medical advice, just what worked for me. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and motivates me to create more. And check out my other videos in the playlist to follow more of my health journey. And thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.